What's up, everybody? I was just having a little conversation with a friend of mine about, he's telling me he's got some money he wants to invest. And I started to think about, if I had money to invest right now, how I would invest it. And look, I've been right about a few things. Like Port LaBelle. It's in Henry County, Florida. You could have got about a year ago. But you remember when lots in LaBelle were going for like $4,000? And I had somebody who told me, Jose, I want to invest some money. I was like, buy a lot in Port LaBelle. And the people never did it. Those lots that in Port LaBelle were going for like something like 4,000, 3,800, somewhere in that range.
I think so.
Now they're selling between 9,700 and 12,500. And lots that were going for like 12 are now going for like 20 in that area. Homosassa Springs, just north of Hernando County, along 19. Lots in that area were going for like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. And all of a sudden, they spiked up 40 to 65%. And this might have been 2015, 2014, somewhere in those years. They just blew up like crazy. To where I'm thinking that I am going to invest as a side hustle, grab $3,000 or $4,000 now and buy a lot somewhere. And I'm not sure where I'm going to buy it yet, but I'll give you guys a few pointers that I've noticed watching lots. Like, can you make money buying an empty lot? Most people who buy empty lots are probably the worst investments that you could, undoubtedly some of the worst investments you could probably ever make is buying an empty lot. And it comes down to this. Empty lots, 95% of the people who buy empty lots are probably like really bad investments. And I don't recommend you buy empty lots if you don't know what you're doing. And that's the thing. Most people buying empty lots just have some money and they want to hold it. They want to diversify a little bit or something. And they buy an empty lot. So those are no-brain buys, and there's no scientific equation behind it. It's just somebody diversifying, buying an empty lot somewhere. And a lot of times they don't understand inventory. They don't understand when those lots are going to be needed. Because if you buy a lot today and 20 years later, there's no need for that lot, you just wasted 20 years of your life. Your money's set there doing nothing. So, and you're paying property taxes for many years. A guy dropped a boat and you had to pay a junk removal company to come and haul it away or something. Somebody dumped on the lot, now you're paying for it. So, and then you have to pay, keep in mind too, if you're buying empty lots, you're paying, it's almost like buying a house, I believe, how much paperwork and what it costs. So it doesn't make sense if your lot goes up 50% of value. Let's say you buy a lot for $4,000 and now it's worth $6,000. You made $2,000? Well, no. You had to process the sale at the beginning and you lose money on the way in, on the way out. So if that lot goes up 50% value, you really didn't make any money at all. You just gave money to a real estate attorney or a title company or whatever. You didn't really make any money on that. So to the people who are looking to invest into empty lots, you gotta have a strategy. If you don't have a strategy, keep your money in the bank. When I saw these lots in Port LaBelle for $4,000, I told everybody that I knew. I said, look, buy these lots. I told several people, buy these lots, man. If you have a few $1,000s later on, buy these lots. And they didn't listen to me. And I just sent the message. I just looked it up. Now I'm like, well, I told you, buy those lots. You would have made a good deal of money. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm going to do it with a lot of common sense. And, when you travel, you see, for me, traveling and really getting to understand an area, like on a really, like, you could be like the most backwards person, like no education, no nothing, you're broke. But if you know your neighborhood, you've lived there long enough to know that place, that person is a wealth of knowledge on that neighborhood. You could literally find like somebody who's done nothing with their lives and ask them about their neighborhood, and they'll know every last crevice. They've been in every last apartment in that neighborhood. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not really about how much formal education. A lot of times people don't come to my channel and they criticize my lack of formal education but they don't realize that formal education and street knowledge are two totally different things. You have somebody with no formal education, they can have some street knowledge, and they're not able to apply it into anything that's productive. So I think I might consider buying an empty lot somewhere. Katie would probably say no. Would you do it? I'd do it.
Well, look into it.
Yeah, like say $4,000. Let's buy an empty lot somewhere and let's see what it does.
Maybe later on we could build on it.
Yeah, like what I wanted to do really was, I wanted to find a place where, like, I could buy a lot for $1,000, let's say, or for or in every like year buy 2 lots somewhere. That's what I wanted to get to the point where I could buy every year buy 2 lots and like 2 small investments. Like here's one lot, and it's not something that I'm going to like try to cash out. It's just something you're going to sit on. And I think Florida would be a good place to do that. Still, I just don't know where at this moment. I would have to really study it again to get an idea. But it all comes down to the bottom line, which is what is going to make this neighborhood, when are they going to need these empty lots? And in the case of Port LaBelle, very soon. They needed them. Now they're using them. In the case of Spring Hill, very soon. So where is growth going to be moving forward? And this is a short-term thing. This isn't a 5 to 10 year thing. Forget about it. That's not a strategic plan. A strategic plan is where are they going to run out of lots? And like, for example, just look at this on a map. If you have a second and you're really interested in buying empty lots, look up a place called it's the most furthest west place in West Palm. Find West Palm Beach and then go all the way west, and you'll find a few subdivisions like north of Royal Palm and all that, where they're like 1.5 acre lots or something, and they've built houses. It's about 95% filled in. There's barely any lots left in this area. There's barely any lots left there. And these lots that are barely left, the houses that are, on those houses, they're going for like $300,000. They've been at that price range for a while. They're not going up. They're not going anywhere. Golden Gate Estates in Naples, it's the other thing. West Palm Beach is on this side. We're talking the far edge of West Palm Beach. Here's Naples, very similar city. In West Palm Beach, you have real estate into the almost $60 million. And in Naples, you have real estate at $60 million. You go towards the center, you have the estates, the large acreage further inland. You have that in Naples, you have that in West Palm Beach. In West Palm Beach, they're almost filled up, and they're in like the 300s. In Naples, they're almost filled up. They're not filled up, I'm sorry. In Naples, they're going to get estates. It's probably like 10. I don't know how you would look this up, but from a rough guess, I would guess like less than 20% of lots in the Golden Gate Estates were actually built. So it would take 30 years, even at an incredible rate of construction, it would take 20 or 30 years for all those empty lots to actually get built. And when they do get built, the area is only going to be compatible to West Palm Beach on the other side, and they're already filled in, and they're at $300,000. So it maxes out at a certain level, unless they start to rezone. Collier County's been flirting with the idea. Collier, where Naples sits, has been flirting with the idea of rezoning the agricultural area around Immokalee, and it will be a destructive thing for the environment, and that's probably what they're going to do, because all they care about is the bottom line. What makes Florida different, especially the southern region of Florida, and a lot of people investing in Florida just don't understand. Like, I'm in Alabama right now. I can go to Texas, and it looks the same. There's beautiful pine tree forests from North Carolina all the way down to Texas. It's all the same. Deer, turkey, I don't know. It's all the same. Bear. You go to the Everglades in South Florida. You got stuff down there that you don't have anywhere else. You got more black bears than anywhere else on the East Coast, likely. In Naples. Okay, people in Naples see black bears in their backyards. Alligators. You have 1 million alligators in Florida. The Florida panther. And it's not just the animals that are unique. It's also the plants. You have some palm trees that go up into the Carolinas and a little bit down to Texas and all up and down the Gulf Coast. But you have in Naples, in between Miami and Naples, you have royal palm trees. Nowhere else in the United States does that grow naturally like that. It's an environment that the people investing in Florida just don't understand. That's an environment that cannot be duplicated, and it's already destroyed. So it's like, at this point, the Florida Everglades, they might as well just drain it all and build houses. At this point, what's the point of saving the Everglades at this point? It's already destroyed. It's not anything. It was something amazing. It's been destroyed. There are areas like the Corkscrew. There are areas like, that they're preserved areas. They're going to be something. They're going to, there's going to be, lands there that are preserved. But are they really going to, those animals need so much land. And it's a sad situation. I do also think that the reason Central Florida is becoming more of a popular hub, it's just because I think the humidity in South Florida is so unbearable. And we have something in South Florida, which is a lot of Latinos. And our buying habits are absolutely absurd. When we buy something, I've said this before on my channel, Latinos buy property, they never get rid of it. That's why California is ridiculous. Because, just grandparents, kids are living in the same house their grandparents lived in. These tight-knit neighborhoods like Compton, California, Los Angeles, Miami, these places with these, generations of neighborhoods. In Miami, the kids are living in the same area where their grandparents lived. That doesn't happen with any other demographic other than like some African-American communities. It just doesn't happen. My wife's family, they're from Kentucky, then they went to Michigan, and then they came to Florida, and now we're back in Alabama. American people move from to Colorado, to Florida, to here, to Texas, to the Carolinas. They move around. And that frees up real estate, allows people to come in, come out. But these really tight places where people just don't let go of real estate, it gets ridiculous. In Miami, you have kids with their grandparents in Hialeah. You're already like the grandkids are living in the same neighborhoods their grandparents lived in. It's nice, but it creates a situation where there's no entry into these markets, and as many African American communities have that. That's why, I think eventually those African American communities, like Fort Myers, for example, the African American community in Fort Myers, their real estate prices haven't changed at all. Fort Myers blows up, Cape Coral blows up, Lehigh blows up, Estero blows up, but right in the center of town, nothing has happened yet. And until the older people pass away and the new generations get rid of those properties, those neighborhoods are never going to change. So you have to understand how people behave and what they do. And pretty much that when Latinos come into an area, that area is pretty much, eventually there's going to be no room for a profit, because there's no entry into these markets. They become so overpriced that you can't enter these places. So Naples is an interesting scenario in the Golden Gate Estates, because there's still a lot of empty lots out there. I've seen lots for $87,000, but I've noticed that, and if you don't believe me, just do your research, because when I tell you this, you're not going to believe me. 2 acres of land in the Golden Gate Estates in Naples costs the same as 2 acres in North Florida in the middle of nowhere. Unless there's been changes in I haven't been looking at this in the last 6 months. Maybe in this last 6 months there's been changes. But in general, a 1/4 acre in Naples costs as much as a 1/4 acre in the middle of nowhere in North Florida. And you're probably wondering, well, that makes no sense, but I'll explain it to you. Let's say it's an acre of land. That acre of land in North Florida is at an elevation of 30 feet. You don't have to worry about floodplains. You don't have to worry about none of that. When you buy that empty lot in Naples, the reason the house in Naples is $400,000 brand new and the house in North Florida is like $220,000 brand new is because of all the things you have to do to that property to make it usable. And if you're a developer, that doesn't make sense. That's why the Golden Gate Estates, they just gave that over to independent people who maybe a small developer or a realtor makes millions, but the big developers, it doesn't make sense for them to do all that where they can just go to North Florida where the elevation is already 30 feet, flatten it out. They don't even have to bring in land because there's already dirt there. You just got to spread it out. And the developers, they can make that house. They can make it with less. When you buy that empty lot in Naples, Florida, you're going to spend, you need a culvert. You need a driveway. and you have to raise the elevation of the driveway. Even the driveway, the foundation has to be brought in, dirt from somewhere else. The driveway has to be built up, because if not, your driveway is going to flood. So there's $80,000 in dirt. I don't know. A dump truck is $200 a load. Depending on the size of what you're doing, will depend how many loads of dump trucks and a bobcat to flatten it. And that person doing that, they're going to want to make a good $20,000. I don't know how much they want to make, but they're going to make a good profit on that. Then you need to clear the lot. Well, in North Florida, it's easier to clear a lot. Down here, it's swampy. And the roots of these palm trees that we have here in the Everglades, they're like 4 feet away from each other. Like, it's if you ever seen a fire, if you ever seen one of these palm trees catch fire, it leaves like a 4-foot hole, because that's how deep the roots of those palm trees go. Where in North Florida, sometimes it's more like a prairie, or there's less bigger plants, or there's big trees that have a lot of shade. It's easy, and you can work around those trees, and it's just easier to clear that lot. So you've got to clear the lot, and it's really difficult to clear it. And then you got to raise the lot. Then when you start to build your house, you have tighter hurricane regulations. And like in Collier County, you got your wind zone. So you have to, for wind regulations, you have to be at a certain engineering level. So like the house that you can pass inspections with engineering in North Florida, that won't pass in South Florida, because you have wind zone engineering. You got to be a class D, which is 200 miles per hour or whatever. There's different classifications of engineering, and you need the strictest engineering classification. So now, because of wind zone, the house that you could build up here for 95 out the door, now you're talking 130. But that's just the wind zone. Then you have the flood zone. So now your garage has to have hydrostatic flood vents. Then the flood zone, you also have to have a certain grade elevation. So you got to have more surveys. You got to have more dirt. We've talked about the dirt, filling in the lot, clearing the lot. Next thing you know, that lot that costs you $20,000 in Naples, and then you have your impact fees. Impact fees will kill you in some of these counties. Impact fees can be $20,000, $15,000. I don't know what they are right now. I haven't looked into it. But the impact fees is what they charge you to connect to the power, to connect to the water. And you still got to put in a septic system, because you're not getting the exit. You're getting the water coming in, but you're not paying for the water coming out. So now you got to put a septic system, and that septic system also has to have certain specifications. So next thing you know, that before you even touch the house, you're $88,000 in Naples. Here's the price of the lot. You're $88,000, at least $88,000 before you even touch the house you're building. And then when you start to build the house, wind zone, flood zone regulations, the type of material that you use is another problem. Like I was up in Wisconsin, and they build entire houses out of OSB plywood. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, you could not do that in Florida, because it would be garbage. Here you have to have concrete block, because there's so much mold that if you don't build it out of concrete block, it's basically going to rot in 3 to 6 years. That's why there's no log cabins in South Florida. You're not going to see a log cabin in South Florida. And then you have termites, endless complications to build a house. So South Florida is pretty much unattractive to developers. That's why Central Florida, and I think it's even going to extend into North Florida. These are areas where it's much more attractive for, especially like Alabama, where there's so much, it's so easy to build here. There's so many, like, these were farmers back in the day. They had fields, and they planted corn or cotton or who knows what. It's ready for developers to just come in and do their thing. So when you invest, you have to have all that in mind. So I don't know any specific areas to invest in. I'm not going to say invest here, but I will say in the past that Citrus Springs, Homosassa Springs, now Port LaBelle has been a good place. Lehigh was good many years back. Going to get estates in Naples many years back there's a time period when it was successful. But keep in mind, I wouldn't buy an empty lot in Naples, because you could build houses for 20 years and there would still be empty lots out there. They could build for a very long time and still not get that done. So we're at almost 20 minutes. I didn't want this video to be that long. I'm going to start to watch Alabama. specifically the more natural scenic areas. I'm going to watch some parts of Georgia, southern Georgia along the coast, and I'm just going to watch different places, and eventually I'll have an idea of what place I would buy a lot if I decide to. But if you're thinking about buying land, you really just have to know the peak. When are these lots going to be needed? Because that's really where the money's going to be made. Otherwise, it's absolutely one of the worst investments you can make. And I'm not saying this from investing experience. I'm just saying from the fact that, hey, look at Port LaBelle. They were $4,000, now they're $12,000. Look at Homosassa Springs. Everything, they jump up. But keep in mind, you're paying for, when you buy it, you're paying some fees. When you sell it, you're paying some fees. So a profit isn't always even a profit with empty lots. But where there is a profit is if you know when those lots are going to be needed. Jose, Florida Hood Blog, checking out.